You slice your finger while cooking. You know exactly what to do. Grab a bandage, maybe call someone. And within an hour, you're surrounded by antiseptics, painkillers, x-rays, the entire machine of modern medicine. Modern medicine is so normal to us that we forget how fragile the human body actually is without it. No hospitals, no antibiotics, no soap, nothing. Imagine you're stranded on the frozen plains of Ice Age Eurasia. A bison hunt has gone terribly wrong, and you're miles away from your tribe with a shattered leg. In the wild, this should be the end of your story. But what actually happens next? Most people assume prehistoric humans just gave up, lay down and died. But some archaeological discoveries tell a far stranger story. These people didn't just survive catastrophic injuries. They built one of the earliest medical systems in human history, and parts of it were shockingly effective. Today, we're talking about the most hardcore medicine ever practiced by human beings: brain surgery, natural anesthetics, stone blades sharper than modern steel, and one broken skeleton that completely rewrote what scientists thought they knew about civilization. By the end of this, you will never use the word caveman the same way again. Let's start with the part that honestly should not be possible: brain surgery. At sites like Ensisheim in France, archaeologists discovered human skulls over 7,000 years old. And some of them have something deeply unsettling: perfect circular holes. Not animal bites, not battle damage. Deliberate cuts, smooth edges, controlled, precise, intentional. But the real clue wasn't the hole itself. It was the bone growing around it. These people survived. Someone opened their skull thousands of years ago and lived to tell about it. This procedure is called trepanation. When a patient suffered severe head trauma, swelling, internal bleeding, dangerous pressure inside the skull, prehistoric surgeons performed decompression surgery. The idea of performing actual brain surgery with crude stone tools sounds ridiculous by modern standards. Because these weren't random rocks. They used obsidian, volcanic glass. Under an electron microscope, a fractured obsidian edge can measure just 3 nanometers thick. For context, that is sharper than most modern surgical steel. Nature accidentally invented a nanoscalpel, and prehistoric humans figured out how to use it. Because obsidian fractures at the molecular level, the cuts caused less tissue damage, not more. Cleaner incisions, less tearing, faster healing. Humans were performing cranial surgery with volcanic glass before writing even existed. But there's an obvious problem: pain. Opening a human skull with no anesthesia sounds less like medicine and more like a nightmare. Prehistoric people understood that too, which is why they weren't just surgeons, they were pharmacologists. Scientists analyzing Neanderthal dental plaque from El Cedrón Cave in Spain found traces of poplar and willow bark in the teeth of one individual, someone who had been suffering from a severe dental abscess. That finding stunned researchers, because willow bark contains salicylic acid, the chemical foundation of aspirin. A Neanderthal with a toothache was self-medicating with a prehistoric painkiller. And it goes further. Evidence suggests ancient humans also used plants like henbane and datura, both of which contain scopolamine, a powerful natural sedative. Modern medicine still uses related compounds today for pain signaling and nerve interference. Without labs or textbooks, discovering these natural remedies meant a brutal process of trial and error, where choosing the wrong plant didn't just fail to cure you, it killed you. Somehow, they identified some of the strongest bioactive compounds in nature. But surviving the physical surgery was only the first step. Long before we understood germs, the real killer was always infection, and opening a wound in a muddy wilderness was essentially a death sentence. That is where their understanding of nature gets genuinely impressive. They packed wounds with sphagnum moss. Sounds harmless. It is not. This moss absorbs massive amounts of blood and fluid while keeping the wound dry, but the critical part is chemical. Sphagnum releases hydrogen ions into its surroundings, creating an intensely acidic environment, and bacteria cannot survive in it. No germ theory, no microscopes, but an effective antibacterial wound dressing. And they also used honey, not from superstition, from results. Raw honey creates intense osmotic pressure, pulling water directly out of bacterial cells. The microbes dehydrate and die. On top of that, honey slowly releases small amounts of hydrogen peroxide when it contacts body fluids. A natural dual-action disinfectant system. They had no concept of bacteria, but repeated observation kept pushing them toward treatments that genuinely worked. And while physical trauma is easy to see, fighting invisible threats inside the body was an entirely different challenge. Ice Age humans dealt constantly with food poisoning, parasites, dysentery, and contaminated water. Without treatment, something as basic as diarrhea could kill you within days. Their solution? They ate dirt. Scientists call it geophagy. Ancient humans sought out specific clays, kaolin and montmorillonite, and consumed them deliberately. Modern science now explains exactly why this worked. These clays have layered crystal structures with electrically charged surfaces, essentially microscopic toxin traps. Once swallowed, the clay binds to bacteria, parasites, and plant toxins inside the intestines, then carries them safely out of the body. Here's what makes it even more striking. Modern antidiarrheal medicine still uses similar mineral compounds today. Prehistoric humans independently developed a working gastrointestinal treatment. And they even heated the clay before consuming it, sterilizing it first. That is not random survival behavior. That is deliberate medical engineering. Stone scalpels, natural sedatives, antibacterial moss, medicinal clay. All of it remarkable, but none of it is the most important discovery in prehistoric medicine. The greatest breakthrough wasn't a tool or a plant, it was a choice. In 1957, archaeologists excavating Shanidar Cave in Iraq uncovered a Neanderthal skeleton known as Shanidar I. His injuries were catastrophic. One eye destroyed, right arm amputated above the elbow, severe leg fractures, permanent significant disability. Think about what that means in an Ice Age environment. Predators everywhere, food constantly scarce, brutal winters, no margin for weakness. How long should someone like that survive? A week? Maybe less. The bone analysis said something else entirely. He lived to approximately 45 years old. For prehistoric times, that was old age. There is no way he survived alone. He could not hunt effectively, could not travel efficiently, may not even have been able to chew tough food. Someone brought him food, cleaned his wounds, protected him through winter after winter, refused to leave him behind. For decades. There is a famous story floating around the internet, often attributed to the anthropologist Margaret Mead, claiming that the earliest sign of civilization is a healed human femur. People usually expect answers like pottery, tools, or agriculture. Now, while historians have pointed out that this quote is almost certainly an internet myth, the core idea behind it is entirely real. In a harsh, unforgiving world, a broken leg is a death sentence. You cannot run from predators. You cannot reach water. You become prey. A healed femur means someone stayed. Someone carried that person, fed them, kept them safe through the nights they couldn't protect themselves. Civilization didn't begin with a tool. It began the moment one human decided another injured human was still worth saving. That is the real reason humanity is here. Not because we were the strongest, not because we had the sharpest weapons, because we built systems of care powerful enough to fight death itself, and we kept building them, generation after generation. Look at the medicine cabinet in your home. The bandages, the painkillers, the antiseptics. None of it appeared from nothing. It is built on hundreds of thousands of years of human suffering, observation, failure, and survival. Your ancestors did not surrender to catastrophic injury. With stone, plants, mud, and sheer stubbornness, they fought, and they won. If stories like this change how you look at our ancestors, consider subscribing. In our next video, we're looking at an even wilder survival mystery: how early humans figured out how to turn deadly poison into food. That story is genuinely hard to believe. But before you go, the next time you swallow an aspirin, remember this: Somewhere deep in human history, another person once chewed willow bark beneath a freezing ice age sky. Desperate, hurting, trying to survive one more night. Because they did, you're here. See you in the next one.